Oh, that okay. I got it now. That was where we had gotten you up to that last hand left backhand intercept center punch here, and then walk through the that Peng Loi Jian. Okay, so I want to make sure that you get a chance to review that this evening. All right, let's take a couple of minutes. We're going to do just a couple of minutes of posting, and then we are going to work on a technique or two, and give you some food for thought, a mental meal. Right. All right. So I'm gonna face this way. All right. Let's take a breath. As you exhale, let everything settle down. Just a few minutes. Breathe in and rock back towards your heels a little bit. Exhale to the balls of your feet. Nice and easy. We'll do that about 7 times. Very good. Work your way back to the middle. Now to start to lead us into our practice, what I'd like for you to do is just gently shift your weight over to one side, doesn't matter which, just enough so that you feel like that foot is evenly and flatly on the earth, and the other foot is still flatly on the earth. But you know that you've transferred your weight over to one side. And just stay there for about 5 breaths. As you exhale this next time, very gently and slowly slide yourself over to the other side. Okay. And when you slide over, I'd like for you to check yourself. Okay. By that, what I mean is that I don't want you to just throw your ass over to one side or just tip your head over one side. Imagine your belly button and your nose slide over together. As you exhale this next time, slide back to the middle. Now let's just close up the hands, wrap up the thumbs, stand up nice and tall. Try to bring that quietness back with you. You're going to need it here in a little bit, right? And now we'll kind of talk about the mental meal a little bit. What we're trying to introduce. Most of you all, are working, and almost all of us always are working to try to be more graceful. Okay. And or whatever your word is to that, right? Smooth might be your term. Okay. And as we've spoken about before, gracefulness is what I call a multi-component word. You know it when you see it, right? Right. Whether it's a golfer, a dancer, a skater, you just see it, right? But you also know now that for that to happen, you have to have a sense of, one, balance. You cannot be graceful and be out of balance. Okay. Two is some sense of what you're doing, whether you're running routes in football, shooting a basketball, it doesn't matter. You have to have a good sense of what it is. You have to be very familiar with what it is that you're trying to do to find a sense of gracefulness. Because if you're guessing or rushing, it's no longer going to look or feel graceful. When you're practicing, one of the things that you're trying to find is tempo and rhythm, and then play with different tempos and rhythms. And we've done that before in classes where y'all will practice a set of form or movements, but you'll practice it, it's always the same speed, for example. And the reason I bring this up is because, for you to find tempo and rhythm, you have to be able to transfer the weight of your body. Doesn't matter how you do it. If I'm just doing a bow stance and transferring back and forth, the transfer of weight is not the same as the movement of the body. You can move your body around and not transfer your weight very much at all. In fact, most of the time when you throw your rear end out, you'll stick your head forward so that you still stay balanced. You won't transfer a weight. So when I had you move, I was like, think about your forehead or your nose moving back and forth together. Now you have a transfer of weight. You have a tempo. Sifu Chinyas tells us, look, when you're practicing Tai Chi, imagine that your tempo to start with is your heartbeat. Of course, now you got to be quiet enough to be able to feel your heartbeat. But it helps you bring your mind in. So if you just took one hand and could feel your heartbeat, you could just practice something like cloud hands. But it starts with the transfer of weight. Okay? There are times when your hand will lead your body and times where your body will push the hand. But in both cases, there is a transfer of weight that happens in sequence to what it is that you're responding to. And by that, what I mean is somebody throws something to you or at you, you're going to usually respond with your hand first, and then your body will try to catch up to it, much like what y'all were working on earlier. If you are the one delivering the hell yeah, here I come, right? It's usually your body pushing out your hand, right? But it's not always that way, but that's one of the ways you can think about it. So what I wanted you to do was to say, okay, if you were just going to practice a tempo out of a bow stance, and let's just take something, let's keep it kind of simple, okay? Let's just take a brush knee, okay? So if you're practicing brush knee, just first start in a gentle rhythm or a gentle tempo, whatever word works for you, okay? And keep it smooth. And then when you're ready, and you feel like your timing is good. And when I say timing is good, remember I used the word sequencing. Okay. So when you look at the sequencing in this particular structure, right, what's moving the most? These. These are moving the most, right? They're covering all this distance. If you were measuring those loops, that's right. The next thing that's moving is pretty much your shoulders and through here. You're kind of like your torso, okay? It's moving. Then even smaller is the hips, and even smaller than that, look at how much the ankle bones move, right? So there's a sequence that goes from shorter all the way out to longer. And by good timing, what I mean is that they all finish together and they come back together. But since they're all moving different distances, for them to come together and finish together, there's no way they can move at the same pace. That's where tempo comes into play, because now you have to find, if you start off and you're like the brick, there's no tempo because you look like a brick, right? I mean, you're just moving shoulders and arms. If you're what I call the Latino version, you got a whole bunch of this stuff going on, right? Right. So everybody has their own things, but you have to kind of find out what's working for you with the guidance of what am I trying to do in this particular technique. Okay, so go ahead and just do a few more so I can see you. And then if you feel like you got the technique correct and you have a good, gentle tempo that's smooth, then I'd like for you to jack it up about 25%. And by jack it up, I mean speed it up a little bit. That's pretty good, Bader. All right, Bob, watch your timing a little bit, okay? See how your body is slipping all the way back, and then your hands will finish. Okay. Try to get it to where they finish at the same time. That's good, Jeff. You're moving much smoother, much smoother. It feels that way. Good, 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 good. Now just make it a little bigger. You're, a big, tall young man. So when you make these circles, I would expect to see something that looks not the Tyrannosaurus Rex version. Okay. Fluffier is the word I used to say. I like for it to look fluffy. Okay. Good. How's that feel, Karen? All right. Switch your legs if you need to or want to, and try the other side. It doesn't matter which technique. You could go through all of your techniques. I usually suggest start just by sliding, transferring the weight front and back so that you get a good feel for that. Do a few more. And then at your own pace, you can speed it up and then speed it up again if you feel like it. You don't have to, and you certainly don't want to rush through it. But when you're doing it in the right tempo and everything's working sequentially the way you're supposed to, you won't feel like you're rushing. You're just moving swifter. Okay. Okay. Mr. Speed, can I borrow you for a minute? Okay. So let's, what I want to do is kind of give you some meat on the bone, why, right? Well, one, you develop your own kinesthetic awareness. You get used to moving your body around at different paces and different tempos, and that creates a whole nother level of awareness for you. Okay. Which you can use later to not just be more graceful and more athletic and more healthy, but when you get in close, a lot of times, like let's do something like what we were doing earlier. Okay. So if I'm inside, right, and I'm going to move, a lot of times if I practice at the same slow pace, what will happen is that I'm just going to be trying to move and muscle him around. Right. And a lot of times when you get in, as soon as you make contact, usually, and you feel something, tempo changes. Right? Tempo will naturally change so that as soon as I feel it, and notice how my whole body moved. I didn't just reach out in this case. Oh, if you're wondering what I'm doing, that part right there, okay? That's all I'm doing. So I'm coming in, and when, as soon as he feels me push, it's very natural for somebody to try to trap your hand. And as soon as that happens, you got a little glitch of time where you need to cut tempo by 75% and get quick. All right. And just turn into a lot. For example, in this case, did you see how quick my feet changed? That by the time I got the lock, my feet had already changed. So when I'm practicing, a lot of times, if I practice slow and out of pace, I would try to do this and I'd try to do that, and he would just be pounding away on my face. Right? But if I move, and as soon as I touch in, if I roll, I can change the tempo, get into my cannon fist, for example, and practice that little right there. Mm-hmm. So, but for you to be able to do something like that with a classmate, you have to feel you. You have to know what it's like for you to move. So if I'm practicing that technique, sometimes I'll practice it, what I call just form-friendly teaching speed. I'm sitting in there and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, boom. Okay. You can practice it a little faster, and then you practice it, just about as quick as you can several times. And then you slow it down and you practice it with something in front of you. So you do the same thing and you just learn to go. Okay? That's why it's important to practice different tempos and speed if you ever want to learn to apply it. You never have to learn to apply it, but I encourage you to do at least some obstruction practice. What we call martial arts is a corporeal experience. So you have to touch and feel things. It's not good enough just to know it or to think you know it. You need to be able to touch, just like dance is a corporeal experience. You can practice all the time out there, your steps in the garage. And then when you go over there to the shagging place there and you grab your first partner and she dumps you because you're sitting out there yanking her around the dance floor. Okay. You'll be back in your garage trying to find something, practicing with a little grocery cart or something, trying to move smoothly so that you feel like you can be graceful. But the whole point is tempo changes, and you have to practice tempo changes with it. And that means you have to transfer your weight. Thank you. Right. So when you're practicing, well, let's just pick up where we had done with you on Saturday. In the 48, we had done you end up in a center punch. Right. And then this is a good example. That's a transfer of weight, right? Boom. And then the tempo changes into where I roll, I hold the baby, and then I'm out. Okay. So as far as the footwork goes, it's really simple, right? I'm just going to go forward, turn, walk, transfer weight. That's all that this is doing. Okay. Transfer, hold, roll, and out. Okay. A lot of times, Bob, can I borrow you again? A lot of times, and we'll move in different angles this time. A lot of times when you see in your circling of the hands, this kind of action, a lot of times you have no idea what you're doing, in the sense that when you go to apply it, it's sometimes just better just to relax and go, okay, what would I be doing? I mean, if I'm in here and I'm pulling him in, and all of a sudden you roll this around, a lot of times what you're doing is you've touched something and you're learning how to roll it around and throw. So in that case, when you see me here, I'm moving things around. Maybe he intercepted a hand. Maybe I got clogged up. Oh, this is a good one because now he's on the inside, right? And so I would change it, right, and roll right over. So all I did there is because I was on the inside. If I wanted to take it, I just roll it over. So I could pop and then trap it down. But the idea is that when you're moving these things around, that's why I have had you practicing on branches so you could feel. What if you moved, if this was a little branch on a tree and this was the trunk, okay? I'm just going to roll and walk through. So when we sit here and we practice this rolling action, stepping and sliding, I want you to have texture in your mind of what you could be doing, whether you're practicing in a martial art or just moving a branch out of the way on a tree. It doesn't matter. Thank you. Okay. Let's try that a couple more times. So we have the strike. We usually call that a center punch. Okay. And then we're going to turn, pick your foot up. Okay. And I mean, literally try to practice picking your foot up. And remember what we talked about. The hip tells the foot where to go. So all I need to do is to take the hip and turn it, and the foot will go if I'll just pick it up. And then from there, I'll walk through and out to the parting horse's mane. Okay, try a couple more. All right. So Karen, try to get a little further with your hands. Okay, so once you hear, this hand is almost going to make a big, almost a full circle, right? So when it comes in here, if I'm facing you, it's going to go, see where my right hand's on top? Yeah, my right hand is on top. There you go. And then out. Mm-hmm. Good. That looks much better. Okay. Like I said, you don't have to have it perfect, but it's a good idea to have some idea about what you might be doing or could be doing. And then perfection will kind of follow your mind. It'll catch up with you. Right. But you don't have to know it perfect in order to learn to apply it, because there's nothing perfect about any application. It's always ugly. As far as, I mean, it's always ugly. He's sweaty and slippery. His hand in the right place. That is what we call choreography, right? But in martial training, it's really is never the way that you might think. It's a good way to practice, but that's just for you, right? So that you have context. All right. What else was there? There was something else in there. Do y'all have any questions? No? Okay. So at the end of that, in that particular part of the form, after the center punch and you roll through, then it goes into a roll back, then your two-hand press, just like you normally do. You sweep it back and out. Okay? All right. Go ahead and do that one more time. And what I'm looking for from you is the transfer weight. You notice how many times you transfer weight during that movement? During that little section? Then transfer back, pressing forward. That's good, Karen. Then back. When you get here, transfer that weight back. There you go, and rotate your body a little bit. Okay. So if I'm facing you, right, when I sit back, when I'm here on the on, when I'm here in the G, when I sit back, you see how my body blades back a little bit? My hands are here. Yeah. And then sometimes, though, in Chinese martial arts, this is called holding the tiger's head, right? And so it's almost like, and if you're lucky, maybe that's exactly what you're doing, right? In the sense that, if you get in, you get close enough, And you can get someone, the other name they usually will call it is, or applications are called playing with the pearl. The emperor plays with the pearl. So once you can get a hold of the head, then you learn how to do different things so that you can go home safely, right? So one last time, center punch, good tempo change. That needs to be quick. And then out, back. Good. So in clarification, most of the time when you're learning the basics of Tai Chi, you practice in a staccato kind of tempo, like 3 beats per minute. And it's the same way throughout the fire set. It's the same way throughout perhaps the Yang 24, for example. But once you get to Tai Chi 48, it almost expects that you know what tempo is and that you know how to change it. And if not, then you have to practice it more. Okay. And so when you have these little actions, you can practice staccato, but you just remember that you're going to have to eventually get in there to where it's going to have to feel. There's a moment in time where it's, Sifu Jim was a music guy. He always said, look, you got long note, full notes, half notes, quarter notes at a minimum. At a minimum. So sometimes you're going to practice and it's going to be full note, quarter note, and then back out to maybe a half note. But your ability to play that is where you're trying to get to. Tempo change. And it's the basis of tempo change is based in your footwork. It's based in the transference of weight. It is not based in your hands. These will catch up if you'll let them go. But you have got to be able to transfer and move your weight and then know what it is you're trying to do well enough so that they will do it. Okay. Any questions? Okay. You feel like you got something to work with anyway? Okay, good.